Insert Dorian. Batman. Batman. Ethan Mathian.
Do you see any evidence of your students playing video games?
I hear that they play a lot of video games. I hear titles and I watch with excitement as one kid talks about what score he got or who he killed or whatever, and they're talking this language that I don't know. I mean, they're using some terms, and I don't remember the terms, but I know it's a video game. And it's got its own culture, you know, and the excitement that they show just for me being like a fly on the wall when they're talking, you know, sounds like it's a big part of today's kids' world. However, then there are times when that's what's done, but the homework's not done, and then that creates a problem for me during the day because I have to find time for them to complete homework under my supervision, and there's not much time to do that. No.
Their writing as well. And that's the only place it really starts to concern me, is because they write about playing video games, and I ask them, well, don't you do anything else? And they say, no, I can't think of anything else to write about. Until the point where I had to ban writing about video games just because I couldn't get anything else out of them. Which is okay, if that's their interest, that's fine, but sometimes I want something a little bit different too.
I think it's an underlying current in our society that, you know, the multimedia games and things that are a distraction mentally, you know, and even when I get out the laptops, there's the wantingness to go to a game site versus something else. And that's natural, I think, you know. And you know, other technology too is the cell phones. They're in their pockets. They're doing that while instruction is occurring, of course.
I see evidence in their conversations, especially boys are at 8th grade, which is 13, 14, 15 years old. They are very preoccupied with the activities they do outside of the classroom, which to a large extent is playing video games, or maybe it's sports, either participating in a sport or watching sports on TV. They're very preoccupied with that. Girls have things they're preoccupied with, but not typically video games, as far as I can tell, just as far as I can tell by their kind of conversational topics. Boys will talk on and on and on about the video games. Currently this year, 2010, COD, Call of Duty, is what they talk about, and they are talking from within the game and shouting across the room to each other, hey dude, I just saw the D-Day opening, which means, I don't know what, some sort of D-Day war scenario. They achieved a game ranking that allowed them to enter into this new level of gameplay. So they'll talk about that, or the kinds of little levels or certification badges that they earn that show up on their status. I think this is an online role-playing game, and the more you play, the more kind of badges you get, or something like this. Of course, then they also have skills, and then they play against other kids who are online. So they do things like poning noobs, which is beating up or killing the newbies, or, you know, showing their fancy footwork, I guess. I can only imagine that they're in a little action figure, and there's another little action figure that they're destroying in some way, or whatever they're doing to show their superiority. So poning noobs is what they live for.
So you're learning how to type by killing zombies, and you're competing with someone else who's also typing?
It's like a co-op mode. So yourself and a teammate can work together to get through the level. And you both have to type.
Well, yeah. I guess sometimes you do what it takes to make it interesting. I don't know that killing zombies is the best approach in my eyes, but I'm sure the kids would be motivated to win and to learn to type better. I don't like the violence.
And even though this is kind of gruesome or whatever, that's what my age boys would like, and I have mainly boys. And if we get them to type, then I guess that would be okay with me. If the parents would be okay with it.
Violence is really probably one of the biggest things that keep video games out of the school setting, because in a school setting you can't have violence. I mean, it's just not going to be allowed, and it's hard to either redo a game so that there isn't violence in it, or just produce a game that has no violence.
I do think that some things are influenced by video games based on, like when you said, oh, I'm studying video games in the classroom, I'm thinking, oh man, those killing videos that they're like killing one another, but I do think it has influenced kids in some way. But in defense of the video games, there have been a lot of curriculum changes as well that I think forces kids to grow up maybe a little bit faster without building the foundation they need before they move on to those next social levels, I would say. So I think it's a combination of things. I don't think we can just say the only reason why these kids aren't getting along is because they play video games at home. I mean, I'm sure there are some kids that don't play video games at home that could be very aggressive. But I will say that with the children I notice that have the most aggression, they do tend to play video games more often.
Well, I think the only thing that made me feel uncomfortable once, and it was maybe because of the kid too, and the kid that was playing these games with people that weren't around.
So you think that some of these online games are dangerous outlets for kids?
Well, I don't know how it works, really. I mean, in terms of his, if these people were people he would never be in contact with, or somehow he could be in contact with, but I don't know, just things I overheard didn't sound right to me. And plus, he was up all night doing it, and he has gotten in trouble with the police. I mean, since then.
Not all video games, but some of the ones I'm seeing today and what I've heard about, a lot of the kids are playing seem to have that. And when they spend hours online with others, that concerns me, because they could be hours doing other things. Go outside, walk in the park. Yeah.
I know most video games are quite violent, and sure, I have a problem with that. I guess I also grew up with a lot of boys, and I'm a part of this culture, and so it doesn't disturb me on a level. I take it in stride. It is upsetting. I mean, I don't know what the studies say about the impact of the violence over the course of time on their development. But I just draw a line, if it's not related to the curricular topic, then it's just not the right time or place.
What factors might deter you from using games in the classroom?
Whether the game was aligned with my curriculum, whether the game had any violence in it whatsoever. One other thing that I would be careful of, like for instance, if I give a student a computer and I tell them that I want them to type up a paper or use it to do a PowerPoint presentation, they have the ability and they know how. I mean, I have to keep an eye on them to make sure that they're staying on task. So my one concern would be that if I give them this game, do they have the ability to do a different activity where if I turn my back, are they still completing the goal that I want them to complete? So that would be an issue, because if I have 25 students on computers, I constantly circulate the room to make sure that they are using the computer for the purpose that I set out for them.